Hi there, thanks for looking at my videos. The channel is surely growing and I like making these videos, so if you can refer a friend, maybe like and subscribe, I would really appreciate that. So today we're going to talk about defect identification. So I've got a few defects and how we will identify them in a weld. And there's basically two information points that I use for this. I will have examples coming up in videos that I've already updated. I just need to edit them and then upload them. But this is kind of the theory behind it. So I always check for two things, which is the echo pattern and where does my defect plot out. So those are the two things that I always check when I do conventional UT with an A-scan representation. So, for example, if I have a weld here, like that, and I'm getting echoes that plot out in this area. Now I'm talking about defect echoes, not your general geometric root echo, but a defect echo, something that should not be there. It's going to be one of two patterns typically. So if I see something like this, it's a bit of a wider echo. Now obviously that's exaggerated, but it's a bit of a wider echo and it's quite high amplitude. I would believe this to be a crack. And if it's something a little bit cleaner, I would think this is more of a lack of penetration or a lack of root fusion. This will obviously have a little bit less response than this. Typically for your root indications, you'll use a 45-degree probe, although this is not guaranteed. This is just a guideline of how you can go about identifying your indications. So yeah, first thing is I would plot, so I would draw in my beam path, see where it ends, then have a look at the echo on my A-scan screen. So this is all A-scan, and then I would decide based on that what I'm looking at. Obviously you can put in more, you have to put in more angles, and the more angles you put in, the better your chances of identifying the defect. But maybe I should draw a few more. So that would be typical root indications. These indications I get from our product technology on welds. What do we expect to see in a weld? So let's do another one. So once again, nice single V weld, expertly drawn. And let's say the indication plots out somewhere there, so in this area. Now I know from a weld there are a few indications that are likely to come up here, and I generally break it down into 3. So once again, we might have something similar, a high echo with a little bit wider, but it's a high amplitude and it's got a couple of peaks. This could be something like a centerline crack or a crack in the middle of the weld. You'll typically find that this starts at the surface. So if you do a surface technique like dye penetrant or magnetic particle, you could detect this as well, just to support your ultrasonic testing. Now let's, however, it's a nice clean echo. I would think this would be something like slag, or maybe like a lack of interrun fusion. Okay. It's really difficult to distinguish between those two. You're going to have to rely on your plotting and maybe use some extra techniques available to you. And then we'll have something like this. It will be a low level wide echo with multiple peaks, and I mean these peaks might come up at all time, but this will definitely be a low level indication, and this would be something like porosity. It's actually got a very distinguishable echo if you look at porosity. So if you have some test plates available to you and you ever look at porosity, you will see the echo. And once again, this is for indications that plot out there in the middle of the weld. All right, but we're not done yet. We still have a few other things. So what if it plots out in this area? So if I have an indication that plots out there like that, in this area, so on the sidewall of the weld, what do I expect? Well, if it's one of these echoes, you guessed it, it will typically be a crack on the sidewall. And if it's nice and clean, this will typically be a lack of sidewall fusion. So these are for all the indications that plot out on our sidewall area of our weld. There could be a piece of slag on the sidewall. It's unlikely. Once again, you'll have to use additional techniques available to you. Put in more angles, check some more stuff. And then finally, the last one. And this is my favorite. So if we have our, it's maybe a little bit far, but if we have our weld like that, and we get an indication that plots out here or here, this will typically be best to be found with a 45 degree after skip, like that, after skip from both sides even. And the echo will probably be one of these ugly ones, and this will be a toe crack. Typically cracks, as we know, start from the surface. So if something cracks down there and you have dye penetrant or magnetic particle testing available to you, I would suggest just checking this and you should find the crack there. Yeah, I guess that's the basics of how we identify defects. Next up will be a video showing this in practice, and let's see how it works.